I'm Riley, and I'm still coming to terms with the events that unfolded over the past few months. It all came to a head at my grandmother's 70th birthday party, a celebration that turned into a reckoning for my family. As I stood in the transformed Fellowship Hall of Grace Community Church, watching my grandmother's face light up with surprise and joy, I couldn't help but feel a sense of hope. The room was filled with people who loved and appreciated her, a stark contrast to the coldness and indifference I'd experienced from my parents. But then they walked in. My father, dressed in his best suit, looking every bit the successful businessman. My mother, in an elegant dress, her smile forced and artificial. And my sister, Megan, looking uncomfortable and out of place. I watched as they made their way around the room, shaking hands and making small talk, pretending to be the loving family they were supposed to be. But I knew the truth. I knew what they'd done, and I was determined not to let them get away with it. After lunch, Pastor Reed took the microphone and began to speak about my grandmother. He talked about her kindness, her generosity, and her unwavering faith. He talked about the sacrifices she'd made for others and how she'd always been there for those in need. And then, he showed a photo of my grandmother's late husband's woodworking tools, the same tools she'd sold to help me pay for my emergency surgery. The room fell silent as he explained what she'd done, and I felt a lump form in my throat. My mother stood up, her face red with anger. "This is inappropriate," she said, her voice cutting through the silence. "This is a private family matter." But my grandmother wasn't going to back down. "No, Patricia," she said, her voice firm and steady. "You humiliated yourselves. I just stopped covering for you." The room erupted in gasps and whispers, and I knew that the truth was finally out. My mother turned to me, her eyes pleading. "Ashley, say something. Tell them this is all a misunderstanding." But I wasn't going to lie anymore. "There's no misunderstanding, Mom," I said, my voice calm and steady. "I asked you for help, and you said no. You chose a boat over my leg." My father stepped forward, his face red with anger. "You don't talk to your mother like that," he said. But I wasn't going to be intimidated. "I'm not finished," I said. "You called me a sunk cost. You said my surgery would teach me a lesson. And you bought a boat. A boat while I was in a hospital bed wondering if I'd ever walk again." My father's mouth opened and closed, but he couldn't find the words to say. I looked around the room, at the faces of the people who had supported me, who had shown me what real love and family meant. "I'm setting a boundary," I said. "From now on, I decide who gets to be family to me. And family doesn't mean people who share my blood. It means people who show up." I walked over to my grandmother and hugged her, and the room erupted in applause. My mother grabbed her purse and started toward the exit, but Megan caught her arm.
"Mom, stop," she said.
"If we leave now, everyone will talk." My father stood frozen, his face purple with anger. I'd never seen him speechless before, and it was almost satisfying. Jason, Megan's fiancé, stepped forward and took my hand. "I'm sorry for what you went through," he said. "It's not your fault." I looked at him, surprised. "Thank you," I said. He glanced back at Megan, his expression complicated. "Megan and I have a lot to figure out," he said. I watched as he walked back to Megan, and I couldn't help but wonder what would happen to their relationship. But I didn't have time to think about that. I had more important things to do. I turned to my grandmother and smiled. "Thank you," I said, "for everything." She smiled back at me, her eyes filled with love. "You're welcome, sweetheart," she said. "You're going to be okay." And for the first time in a long time, I believed her. Looking back, I realized that it all started 4 weeks ago, on a Tuesday morning. I'd just finished a 12-hour night shift at Mercy General's emergency room, and I was exhausted. I remember peeling off my scrubs and collapsing onto my bed, thinking I'd sleep until noon. But I woke up at 9 a.m. With my left calf on fire. 5 days earlier, I'd taken a spill on my bike, nothing dramatic, just a scrape on the pavement. I'd cleaned it, bandaged it, and moved on. Our nurses don't have time to baby every scratch. But now, looking down at my leg, I felt my stomach drop. The wound was angry red, swollen, and hot to the touch. There was a thin red line crawling up toward my knee, like a warning sign written in my own skin.
I knew what that meant.
Cellulitis, possibly progressing to sepsis. I called my coworker, Dana, and she picked up on the second ring. Dana, I need you to look at something, I said. I sent her a photo of my leg, and there was a long silence on the other end. Ashley, get to the ER now, she said. Don't drive yourself. Call an ambulance if you have to. It's that bad. I knew she was right. I'd seen patients lose limbs to infections like this, and I didn't want to be one of them. But I lived alone, and I didn't have anyone to call. So I drove myself to the hospital, watching that red line in my rearview mirror like it might move while I wasn't looking. Dr. Reeves didn't sugarcoat it. The infection was aggressive, and I needed surgery within 48 to 72 hours, or I was looking at osteomyelitis, a bone infection. At that point, amputation became a real possibility. I nodded, my mind racing. I'd seen this movie before, just never as the patient. The surgery, I said. What's the cost? He hesitated. Doctors hate talking money, he said. But with the debridement, for antibiotics, and possible skin graft, it's around $15,000. I felt my heart sink. I'd switched hospitals 3 weeks ago, for better pay and better hours. My old insurance had ended the day I left, and my new coverage wouldn't fully kick in for another month. The hospital's financial coordinator came in an hour later. He was a young guy with apologetic eyes. Your new insurance will cover about $5,000 as emergency care, he explained. That leaves roughly $10,000 out of pocket. I stared at the ceiling, the fluorescent lights buzzing like they were mocking me. $10,000. I had $4,800 in savings, every penny I'd scraped together to pay down my student loans. Payment plans? I asked. We can work something out, he said. But we need a significant portion up front before we can schedule surgery. I knew what that meant. I needed to come up with $10,000 in 48 hours, or I was going to lose my leg. My mind went to the one place I'd trained it never to go. My family. I hadn't called home in 2 months, not since my father had screamed at me for missing Megan's engagement party at some fancy resort because I had a shift I couldn't trade. But this was life or death. Surely that changed things. I picked up my phone and called my mother. She picked up on the fourth ring, and I could hear the sound of hair dryers in the background. Ashley, hold on, she said. I'm at the salon. I waited, my heart pounding. 30 seconds, a minute. Finally, she came back on the line. Okay, I'm in the waiting area. What's wrong? I took a breath and explained. The accident, the infection, the surgery, the $10,000 I didn't have, and the 48 hours I had to find it. There was a long silence on the other end. Then, you always have something, don't you?
She said.
I blinked, stunned. Excuse me? Drama, Ashley. You always have drama. Your sister is getting married in 2 months, and you're calling me with this. Mom, I could lose my leg, I said. She sighed, a long, theatrical sigh. Have you tried your insurance? I explained about the coverage gap. Well, I can't make decisions about money, she said. You know that. Your father handles finances. I squeezed my eyes shut. Can you ask him, please? He's busy today, she said. We're looking at boats.
Boats.
My parents were shopping for boats while I was watching infection climb my leg. Mom, please, I said. I'm begging you. There was another pause, then her voice softened, but not kinder. I'll mention it to him. But Ashley, you need to learn to handle your own problems. You're 26. I knew how old I was. Do you? I said. Because you're calling your mother for money, like you're still in college. Before I could respond, she added, Oh, and Megan's engagement party is in 2 weeks, the official one at the country club. Try to make it this time. The line went dead, and I sat there, phone still pressed to my ear, listening to nothing. That night, I barely slept, not because of the pain in my leg, but because of what I knew was coming next. I had to call my father. I called him the next morning, my leg swollen another half-inch overnight. He answered on the first ring. Your mother told me you called, he said. No, how are you? I said. No, I heard you're in the hospital, he said. Just business. Dad, I need help, I said. I need $10,000 for surgery. Or I might. Let me stop you right there, he said. His voice was calm, almost cheerful. Do you know what I did yesterday? I didn't answer. I bought a boat, he said. $45,000. A beautiful sailboat, 28 feet. The words didn't make sense at first, like he was speaking a foreign language. A boat for Megan. An engagement gift. Her fiancé's family had a place on the lake. This way, we'd have something to contribute. Show them we're not just anybody. I gripped the phone so hard my knuckles turned white. Dad, I'm in the hospital, I said. The infection is spreading. The doctors say. Doctors always say the worst-case scenario, he said. That's how they scare you into paying. I'm a nurse, I said. I know what I'm looking at. Then you should know how to handle it, he said. His tone sharpened. Listen, Ashley, your sister is building a future. She's marrying into a good family. This is an investment. You're still a nurse making $40,000 a year. That's not an investment. That's a sunk cost. He called me a sunk cost. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. You have insurance, he continued. Use it. We already raised you to 18. Our job is done. So that's a no. That's a figure it out yourself. He paused. And maybe this will teach you something. You've always had it too easy. A little struggle builds character. He hung up and I didn't cry. I was too stunned to cry. $45,000 for a boat. 0 for my leg. My mother called back an hour later. Not to apologize, to explain. Your father isn't heartless, Ashley, she said. He just believes in tough love. Tough love. I said. I laughed, but it came out like a cough. I could lose my leg. You're exaggerating, she said. You always exaggerate. I'm looking at it right now, Mom. The red line is past my knee. She ignored that. You have to understand. We've given you so much over the years. The car when you graduated high school helped with your first apartment deposit, that trip to Florida when you were. The car was Megan's old one that she didn't want anymore, I said. The apartment deposit was a loan I paid back. And the Florida trip was a family vacation when I was 12. See, this is what I mean, she said. You're ungrateful. You don't remember the good things. I closed my eyes. Mom, I'm asking for help one time for something that could change my entire life. And I'm telling you that sometimes we have to learn from our struggles, she said. Her voice took on that preachy tone I'd heard 1,000 times. Walking with a limp might teach you responsibility. Might make you think twice before quitting a stable job to chase better opportunities. There it was. She blamed me for switching hospitals, for trying to improve my career. You think I deserve to lose my leg because I took a better job? I said. I think God puts challenges in our path for a reason, she said. I had nothing left to say. Nothing that wouldn't come out as a scream. We love you, Ashley, she said. We just can't enable you. She hung up, and I stared at the ceiling, trying to remember the last time they'd said, I love you without a but attached. I couldn't. Megan called that evening. For one stupid moment, hope flickered in my chest. Hey, Ash, she said. Mom said you're in the hospital. Yeah, infection in my leg, I said. I need surgery. That sucks, she said. She didn't sound like it sucked. She sounded distracted. So, are you coming to the engagement party? She said. I need a final head count. I almost laughed. Megan, I might lose my leg. I don't know if I'll be able to walk by then. Oh, come on, she said. Don't be so dramatic. You'll figure it out. You always do. Did Mom and Dad tell you they won't help with the surgery? I said. I mean, it's not like they have unlimited money, Ashley, she said. They just bought a $45,000 boat for you. Silence then. That's different, she said. That's an investment in our family's future. Jason's parents have expectations, and my leg isn't worth investing in. Don't twist my words, I said. Look, I'm sorry you're going through this, she said. But I can't help either. The wedding is expensive. We're stretched thin. I thought about all the times I'd covered for Megan, lied to our parents about where she was in high school, loaned her money she never paid back, listened to her problems for hours without ever getting the same in return. Megan, I've never asked you for anything ever, I said. And I've never asked you to guilt trip me, but here we are. Her voice turned cold. Figure it out, Ashley. Take out a loan. Set up a GoFundMe. I don't know, but don't expect me to sacrifice my wedding fund because you got an infection. She paused, then added, Oh, and don't forget the party's black tie optional. Don't embarrass me by showing up in scrubs.
Click.
I put the phone down and stared at the wall. 3 calls, 3 rejections. Not a single "I'm sorry" that meant anything. I had no one, or so I thought. I couldn't sleep. The clock on the wall read 11:47 p.m. 31 hours until the surgery deadline. I had $4,800. I needed $10,000. And I had no one left to call. Then the door creaked open. My grandmother stood in the doorway, her white hair pulled back in a simple bun, wearing a cardigan I'd seen 100 times. She looked smaller than I remembered, frilier. Grandma, I said, my voice cracking. How did you? Linda from church drove me, she said. I heard what happened. She crossed the room slowly, pulled up a chair, and sat beside my bed. Her hand found mine, warm, papery, trembling slightly. Does it hurt? She asked. Not why didn't you call me? Not what do you need? Just does it hurt? I started crying. I couldn't stop. She held my hand through all of it, didn't rush me, didn't tell me to be strong. Just let me fall apart. When I finally caught my breath, she reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. $800, she said. I know it's not enough, Grandma, I said.
No, she said.
I sold Harold's tools, the woodworking set. My heart stopped. Those tools were sacred. Grandpa had built furniture with them for 40 years. After he died, Grandma kept them in the garage like a shrine. She'd polish them sometimes just to feel close to him. Grandma, you can't, I said. It's done, she said. Her voice was firm. Linda bought them. She paid more than they're worth because she knows what they meant. She pressed the envelope into my hands. Harold would have wanted this, she said.
He loved you, Ashley.
And so do I. I couldn't speak. $800 wouldn't save my leg. But in that moment, it saved something else. It reminded me that love still existed somewhere, even if it wasn't where I expected to find it. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. Hello, is this Riley? A man's voice said.